Hi.
Hi.
Well, hi. Welcome to Meet Our Ex Successful Story podcast. And I'm Brooke. And today I'm with Kali, and he's going to share his story, his carnivore journey with us today. Hi, Kali. How are you?
Hello. I'm pretty good. Yeah.
Thank you
Um,
again for
oh, you're
sharing.
welcome. You're welcome.
Well, let's just get started.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Um, I really like to know what brought you to carnivore, what your concerns were, and what it was like before you were eating.
Yeah. So for about I would say close to 20 years, I was on a mostly vegetarian diet. I would eat meat, and then I would kind of get guilty about it, and then kind of not eat meat, and then eat a little bit again, and then but heavily minimized, and many long periods of time of being just vegetarian and sometimes vegan. Um, and it was because of my spiritual path. I practice Hinduism and Tibetan Buddhism, and so I would have this sense of, that the animals are, they suffer too, and they're living beings, and we shouldn't kill them. And you watch like the slaughterhouse videos, which like the vegans like to put up, showing the worst, obviously the worst of the worst, but you know, and so that was the main driving force behind me trying to be a vegetarian. But it always kind of led to a lot of health issues, and so that's why I would always feel this deep urge to eat meat, and then a little bit, and then I would stop again. So the health problems I had were severe chronic fatigue. That was the main one. And it was to the point where it was taking over my life. Like I couldn't really hold down a job oftentimes for more than 30 hours a week. And even then I'd be collapsing. Every year I would have to go see a Chinese doctor for herbs, which would help boost my energy levels. But I knew that that's obviously not natural. And without that doctor, what would I do? I would be in severe shape. Also, I suffered from very bad migraines. And like sometimes, like I'm just clutching my temple and moaning, really, really bad. And a few other small stuff, sensitive teeth, chronic sensitive teeth. And a couple of other things, which at the time, I didn't think they were an issue, but looking back after the carnivore diet, I realized they were, so I'm going to mention them now. So I've been practicing yoga and meditation for that same length of time. And every year or every 2 years, I take time off to go to a meditation cabin to do a personal retreat, 6 hours of meditation a day, 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, for about 3 months, 4 months, sometimes 6 months. And all these years, I would not be able to sustain a meditation posture for more than 45 minutes without being in pain and discomfort. And I didn't think that was normal, but I thought maybe it's just me. And then my yoga, hatha yoga, over time I became more flexible, but again, I hit a glass ceiling of some sort. I also felt over these years all the time that something is not right with my body, and that maybe the answer is I need some kind of supplement, some kind of green powder, some kind of cleansing or something, ongoing, never stops. And then a while back, like over a year ago, and then also sensitivity to the cold, very, very sensitive to the cold. I just couldn't handle like a normal life, things that wouldn't bother other people. Cold, that type of cold would bother me, or I would require an afternoon nap, otherwise I would collapse. I'd wake up in the morning feeling very hollow. It's hard to explain what that means. It's kind of subjective, but just this hollow feeling in my body that something isn't right. Nervous system, something. So anyway, over a year ago, I discovered Dr. Sean Baker, and initially I was resisting. I thought, man, that guy's going to die of cancer. Something's wrong with him. But for some reason, I kept coming back to him, and it took me about a couple of months. I said to myself, well, surely he must at least be eating vegetables. He needs to, otherwise he's going to die. Everyone knows that. And then I just started to kind of think, it took me about 3 months to really open up myself to what he was teaching. And I also, it prompted me to do more research on the internet. I came across a video lecture by Dr. Barry Groves. I think he's passed on now. talking about how all mammals have one of two types of digestive systems, a carnivorous type and a herbivorous type, and humans are very clearly carnivorous. And so I thought, I'm going to try this. Also, I wanted to mention my Tibetan doctor always told me over the years to eat beef, and I kept ignoring him. In Tibetan medicine, they do use beef as a medicine, and they prescribe it often to people who are suffering from weakness, fatigue, things like that. But I kept ignoring him because I thought, well, it kind of conflicts with these other spiritual beliefs. I'm just not going to do it. Anyway, so I decided to try this diet, and it kind of coincided with me beginning a meditation retreat in a cabin, the same place I always go to. Last January I started, and I decided, well, that's a good opportunity to really just get it down and do it. So in this retreat, I ate only beef, liver, milk, raw milk, cheese, kefir, like a ferment, kefir, I think they call it in here, and eggs. And so initially, the first thing that I noticed was massive carb cravings. And, I ate healthy before, like I was one of those organic, no processed sugar, no processed, nothing, no hydrogenated vegetable oils, no white flours. I was very healthy already. But for some reason, I had these massive carb cravings. Like I was craving rice, for example, and I never eat rice normally. I mean, I did. I'm sorry, I did, but I never enjoyed it. The thing that helped me get over that was primarily the milk and liver. I think looking back, if I had to eat just red meat, just beef, it would have been more difficult. And of course, I need fat, especially me. I feel like what I really need in my life is fat, and the dairy helped me get there. So the raw milk is a heavy part of my carnivore diet. And sure enough, I got over the carb cravings. And what I started to notice is all of a sudden I had energy, and this has been going on for the past since then. Since I left the cabin, now I'm at work. I have energy that I didn't have before. I don't have to take afternoon naps. I wake up in the morning feeling solid and grounded. I don't have this hollow feeling in my nervous system. I still get migraines, but the threshold is much higher. In other words, there are all these migraine triggers, but they have to be really high for me to finally get a migraine. So it's more rare that I get one, and when I do get one, they're not as heavy anymore. I don't have to take Chinese herbs or Tibetan herbs or anything like that. I just have energy now. My teeth are not sensitive anymore. I'm impervious to the cold. I always used to be that one guy shivering in the corner with my hat and jackets and sweaters, and now I'm not like that. I'm like everybody else. I also, started recently 7 months ago a job as a long-haul flatbed truck driver, which is pretty tough physically, and long hours, physical labor. There's no way I would be able to do this job before. Just no way, physically no way. So I literally owe that to this diet. And then I want to talk about my meditation and yoga, because that's an angle that I think many people who are spiritual or who are doing meditation and yoga, they've been led to believe, well, they have to eat, they have to go vegetarian to, everyone's teaching this, holistic healers. I've heard this from many holistic healers I've gone to. Well, you got to get rid of your red meat and dairy because those things cause inflammation. Everybody knows that. And, I listen to them like an idiot. And I wish I had known 20 years ago what I know now. I could have gotten my life back. So what happened? So I found in this last retreat that I can sit in meditation posture for up to 3 hours with no pain or discomfort without moving. I could never do that before. My yoga postures have improved. I've literally added inches to the postures. Not that that's the purpose about the yoga, that is not. But I mentioned that because it's an indicator that clearly I've removed the inflammation from my body. The other thing, for the past 20 years, my tongue was always chronically white. I had a white coating on my tongue. That's gone. It has started to come back recently, I think because of stress and some other factors, but right after I started the carnivore diet, my tongue became pink for the first time ever since I could remember. and that's, the tongue releases toxins that before they go to the brain. It's the last barrier of defense before the toxins go to the brain. And so that's a sign that I don't have these inflammations that were caused by a vegetarian diet, and which a diet of only red meat and milk takes away all inflammation from the body. And this is something that, so many people out there, so many so-called spiritual people, holistic healers, yoga practitioners, all will tell you is the opposite. So that's an important thing that I learned, and it has completely influenced my life and given me back my life. And I'm really thankful that I bumped into Dr. Sean Baker. I don't know where I would be without him, which is why I'm happy to do this interview, because I want to help you guys and spread this message. So that's about it, I think.
That's great. I really love that you're sharing this story about your spiritual path and how it has opened it up even further for you to deepen your spiritual path, because you don't have to have inflammation that has nothing to do with the spiritual path.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And even the tongue coating. Yeah, I understand that too. I've experienced that same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good. So how long have you been eating this way? I forgot, you said.
A year. So I started last January. Let me see. When did I start? It was January, May. I started school. Over a year ago. Just over a year ago. So 2 Januaries ago.
And how soon did you notice some of these changes?
That's a good question. I was kind of wondering. Some of them started relatively right away, like I would say within the month. And by the 3-month mark, everything was solidified, so to speak. So it's hard for me to say exactly. It's a good question. Some are within that time frame. Some of it started right away, and then some took a little longer.
Yeah, like the teeth sensitivity. Do you remember how long that took?
That might have been one of the first things to improve. To get that feeling. By the 3-month mark, everything was improved, and some started within a month. So it's hard, but again, it's hard. I wish I could remember exactly.
Yes. And do you notice changes that are still continuing for you, or?
No, they've pretty much stabilized at this point. So yeah, I don't think. They've pretty much stabilized.
And has your weight remained?
Yeah, it has. I never, like, I'm 155, 160. Basically, my weight did drop tremendously 10 years ago, or 15, 20 years ago. It went down to 140 when I was really going heavy into that diet. And then there was a brief period 10 years ago where I started to eat meat heavily, and then I gained some weight, did some weightlifting, and then dropped it and went back to being a vegetarian. But my body weight, so I gained weight. I went up to like 175 from 140. Then it dropped down to 155 and stabilized, and hasn't changed since. So for the past 10 years, it's been 155 and has not changed at all. So I'm kind of like a slim athletic type, so I've never had that overweight problem or anything like that.
I think it's really interesting the way you described feeling what I'm assuming is sort of stronger in your body instead of feeling hollow in the morning.
Yeah. And also, like, climbing upstairs or anything like that, I would feel kind of wobbly all the time. Now I feel solid. It's hard to describe, but it's like it's like a certain solidity, a groundedness. And many times in the past, I would study different martial arts, and I'd always be that one guy that everybody could push around, throw around. I never had any groundedness or solidity in my body. And taking Tai Chi classes, I would have to go sit on the bench halfway through class, or Bagua, which, because they're kind of demanding in a certain way. And that's gone. Like, that solidity is there. So that, yeah.
That's great. That's awesome. I thank the animals every day for their sacrifice.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like a lot of people need to know that, many Tibetan lamas and shamanic healers around the world, and indigenous peoples, and tantric masters in India and other places, they eat meat and they acknowledge that we have to. It's sad. Nobody wants to. So we try not to prolong the suffering. And many of these masters would try to pray on behalf of the animal or something like that. It doesn't have to be black or white, either or. And I understand the vegans. I was kind of one of them, so I know where they're coming from. But we cannot ignore our digestive systems that were given to us by obviously some higher power. So we have to come to a medium, a happy medium, how to kill spiritually, so to speak. I know that sounds funny, but there's no other choice. And so that's the challenge. There has to be a way to come together here.
I understand the dilemma, and I understand what you're saying. Thank you so much. I think this will really help other people on their own journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really glad that you found your way to carnivore to strengthen you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Kali. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you. You too.
Bye now.
Bye.